morning, everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mr. Craven. All right, so I'm on the PTS today and on the Wolfhunter, looking at the Wolfhunter, upcoming Wolfhunter DLC. And we're going to be discussing some of the new changes to Werewolf and some of the pros and the cons and applications that are contributed to the Werewolf skill line. So first thing I want to go ahead and do, I have everything kind of unlocked. So I'm going to be using the new respect system and kind of be highlighting this as we're going over this. And I'll explain everything as best as possible and what type of applications you could be looking at between open world, PvP, if you're going to attempt Werewolf and dungeon crawling, so on and so forth. Like I said, in pros and cons. So let's get started, shall we? Werewolf, first of all, is very strong class, class line. Because they changed Devourer. First thing that they put on the table is Devourer is now an automatic passive. So while you're in werewolf form, it's going to allow you to devour corpses to increase the duration of your werewolf transformation. So when you devour something, you're going to be able to maintain werewolf form. Every second you spend devouring a corpse, it will add 3 seconds to the duration of your werewolf transformation. And of course, it restores 8% of your max health. Now, each corpse can be devoured up to 4 times. So you could take each corpse and you can just keep adding time. But keep in mind that you're going to take time to devour. So you want to go ahead and pay attention like, okay, I needed to do a quick devouring just to maintain my werewolf form. Pretty cool. Really cool stuff. Okay, so then we've got Pursuit here, right? Which increases our movement speed by 30%. Werewolves are very fast, really nice. It also increases the stamina. Your heavy attacks restore it by 100%. Okay, Blood Rage. When you deal damage, the duration of your werewolf transformation is increased by 4 seconds. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. So there's only a 1 second lapse, right? Which is really nice. That's why it's still important to devour between, just so you can get that. I kind of like some of the changes when you're dealing damage versus taking, especially if you're going to be looking at this as potential PvE, though there are some negative aspects to that, but I'll be getting into that in a little bit. But it's really nice because in PvE, tanks usually will taunt. When tanks taunt, you're not taking a lot of damage, right? But instead, they said, okay, well, the problem in dungeons is people can't use werewolf in dungeons because they just, it goes away because they're not taking damage because tanks will sweep up the aggro, and this is true. So that's why they made the changes. That's just simply it. It's not about necessarily PvP application. It was just to say, oh, hey, if we want them to use it in PvE, they're going to have to deal it instead of receive it because good tanks aren't going to allow their team to take damage. Okay, so that's pretty much why the change has been implemented. Blood Mood allows you to infect another player with lycanthropy. So every week you can bite somebody and infect them. Okay, Savage Strength, increase your weapon damage by 18%, increase your spell and physical resistance by 10,000. Really nice. Call of the Pack, reduce the cost of remaining in your werewolf transformation by 20% for each transformed werewolf in your group, including yourself, up to maximum of 80%. All right, so there's the passives. Now let's get into the skills and let's get into the morph, shall we? Okay, so Werewolf Berserker transforms you in a beast. 300 ultimate. It's pretty expensive. One of the only classes that get away with having it slightly cheaper is, of course, Sorcerer due to their passive. So they'll get it for 15% cheaper, the transformation. Or there are other sets that can contribute to this. So, but 300 ultimate. Now, while you're in transform, your light attacks apply a bleed. 9,860 physical damage over 8 seconds. Pretty nice. And your heavy attacks deal 50% splash damage. And your maximum stamina is increased by 30%. So werewolves hit really hard. Really hard. I mean, they have splash damage associated with heavy attacks. They apply a bleed attack. And of course, while it's also slotted, you're increasing recovery, your stamina recovery by 15%. So the werewolf ultimate is pretty good given the fact that it's applying a bleed and all these other effects. The one bad thing about a werewolf, though, when you're transformed into a werewolf, you have no ultimate gain and no ultimate cast. Meaning, once you go ahead and you transform into a werewolf, you cannot gain ultimate, nor do you have a secondary effect to apply another ultimate effect. Meaning, you are already in an ultimate state, which can be good and bad. So it's basically like saying, okay, I'm really strong, but at this point, that's what it is. I have no ultimate gain nor a secondary effect to the ultimate effect by putting another damage, but for activation. So that's pretty much, kind of like, okay, do I do werewolf or don't I? Okay, that's personal call. So I'm going to hit the left bumper, so we're going to be able to see. Pack leader. Now, when we go pack leader, we summon 2 dire wolves to fight at our side. Right? Really, really nice. That's kind of cool. You'll also see, though, our light attack damage is going to decrease the bleed effect while we're pack leader. Now, if we go Werewolf Berserker, it increases the damage of the light attack bleed, but we don't have the 2 pets. So all of a sudden, we see that 9,550, right? So light attack bleeds will go up. Okay. So, Brutal Pounce. Pounce an enemy with Primal Fury, dealing 3,813 physical damage to them, and an additional 1,906 physical damage to other nearby enemies. So it has a single target, it has an AoE effect, okay? When we take a look at the Morphs, we have Brutal Pounce, deals additional damage to other nearby enemies, okay? Then we have Feral Pounce. Pouncing from at least 10 meters away adds additional duration to your werewolf transformation. So when we pounce from at least 10 meters, we add 1 second to the werewolf duration. Now, here's one of the biggest things about the pounce. Pounce is good for closing the gap, right? Especially in PvP. PvE, when you're already on top of the mob, this is an effect that is not going to be utilized. Why? Because you're on top of them. So there's a damage effect out the window. So really cool when you're in werewolf form, you want to keep that duration, you want to deal damage. So all of a sudden you pounce, you jump. All of a sudden when you're dealing damage from the passive, you're adding duration. So it works hand in hand with that effect to that new effect into the passive. Unfortunately though, it's a one-time deal when you close the gap, because when you close the gap, you're not going to use this as a spam effect. So 1 damage effect going to be utilized 1 time, out the window. All right. So Piercy's Rage. Invoke the Huntsman's Blessing, healing you for 45% of your max health and granting you major brutality, increasing your weapon damage by 20%. Now, in the past, this has been a huge issue with werewolves, is sustaining buffs, right? Because you can't buff yourself while you're in a werewolf other than using what? Potions. So they have changed a couple things in the werewolf to allow them to decide which type of buffs they're going to acquire. Really nice, and Piercy's going to give you that major brutality up front. When we take a look at the Morphs, we look at Piercy's Rage. Now this is going to further increase your weapon damage with major brutality, so that's why it's really nice. Unfortunately though, if you go with the Piercy's Fortitude, you no longer get that major brutality. So only thing you're going to do is increase the utility aspect, and you're going to sacrifice the brutality. So it becomes the question, do I want the brutality buff for the 20%, or do I want to go ahead and increase the healing? So we go from 45 to 57. Now, both of them have application, but this is the biggest thing, is the cost. It's 4,500, almost 4,600 magicka, right? So you're not going to be spamming this, but for 17-second application for the buff, really nice. And for the extra healing when you need a heal, it comes in very handy. Okay? But once again, utility, not damage. Okay. Ferocious Roar. Roar with Bloodlust to terrify up to 6 nearby enemies. 6. Yeah, it's nuts. Fearing them for 4 seconds and setting them off balance for 5 seconds. Now keep in mind, when mobs are set off balance, that increases the damage they're going to take. Now, when we go ahead and we take a look at the Morphs, Ferocious Roar is going to set the enemy off balance for 3.3 seconds, right? So it's basically going to increase the damage they're taking. Deafening Roar reduces the enemy's physical resistance. Okay, so basically it's like this. If I want to use this in PvP, do I want to set them off balance, or do I want to debuff them? In PvE, if say we use this in a dungeon, Deafening Roar would have less application, Why? Because tanks apply major fracture, right? So what are the better utilities to utilize in dungeon or open world, depending on the scenario, would be Ferocious Roar to set them off balance. But if you need a penetration or to debuff, this is when Deafening Roar would come in play, especially in PvP or open world content. So because you want to go ahead, reduce the resistance to do what? Deal more damage. So really, really nice. Kind of really cool. All right, going further, Howl of Despair. Crush an enemy with a deafening howl, dealing 7,376 physical damage. Allies targeting the enemy can activate Feeding Frenzy synergy, which grants them unlimited use of Empower for 5 seconds. That's huge. That's a big utility there, right? Because it's going to increase light attack damage by 40%. Now, when we take a look at the morphs, we can use Howl of Despair, which grants the synergy to allies that increases their light attack, and that is the Empower buff. Or you can use the Howl of Agony, deals more damage to enemies that are feared. So in PvE applications, Howl of Despair is really, really good, especially if you're wanting to offer a utility for your party. Howl of Agony is really good against what? PvP. PvP, you're going to actually fear them. You're going to use that CC effect, and you're going to deal more damage up front. So I would say you can use both in either application, but Howl of Despair would definitely have more PvE application, where Howl of Agony would have a lot more PvP application to it. But once again, you can utilize them in both effects, but primarily this is how you would see it broken down. Claws of Life. Maul enemies in front of you with your Tainted Claws, dealing 2,795 physical damage and an additional 8,890 disease damage over 10 seconds. Heals you for 50% of the disease damage. Really, really nice. Nice self-sustain. This is what makes werewolves very deadly in PvP, because they sustain a lot of health and they deal a shitload of damage. So, pretty good. When we take a look at the morphs, we have Claws of Anguish, inflicts enemies with Major Defile. Now, a lot of Major Defile has been reduced between 4 to 3 seconds, which is really nice that they're starting to take a look at this, starting to apply this to the debuffs, and starting to take a look at CC effects, especially like rooting or slowing down. So I'm really liking that, and I hope that, keep in that line between, 4, 3 seconds, depending on the application, because this PvP is so fast in Elder Scrolls. Really, anything over 4 seconds is kind of redundant, unless we're talking about a major fracture or major breach, or a minor breach or minor fracture debuff. Other than that, anything with a CC effect or a huge debuff like this, kind of pointless. So Claws of Anguish. Debuff them with Major Defile, reducing their healing received by 30%. Now, Claws of Life. Now, this is going to heal you a percentage of the disease damage done, right? So one has a debuff, one has a self-sustain to it. Okay? Consequently, though, when you take a look at this, without the morph, you're already getting the healing, right? So you're already getting healing prior to morph application, right? But you're not getting the debuff. So if you want the debuff, you go with Claws of Anguish. Claws of Life, you're not really doing anything other than. So heals 50%. Heals 50%. Damage, 2786. Damage, 2788. So the morph to Claws of Life is literally not worth it. Claws of Life is literally not worth the morph. It's not. It's not adding anything additional. So unless you take Claws of Anguish, it's best not to even morph Claws of Life. Okay? So unless they start spiking that up and taking a look at either cost reduction or increase the healing received or debuff the initial Claws of Life. Okay? So a lot of people will be like, oh, take Claws of Life. Well, you already have it prior to the morph. You don't need to waste the skill point. Okay? The only time you're going to waste the skill point is Claws of Anguish. If you're going to take Claws of Anguish morph. Okay? So, it's pretty crazy. Now, let's go ahead and let's, hypothetically say we're going to, build something. We want to try to make it a dungeon run. Now, I'm going to get into the cons of the application. So, we're going to take the Werewolf Berserker. Why? Because we're going to want to, deal damage. All right, so also we're going to go ahead and add Brutal Pounce instead. Piercy's Rage, we want to go ahead and increase our weapon damage with that Major Brutality, hypothetically. We can go with Deafening Roar or Ferocious Roar, but if we're doing like a dungeon crawl or open world, I would prefer Ferocious. If I was in PvP, I'd take the other one, obviously. Howl of Despair, we can grant synergy to allies or deals more damage that our enemies are feared. We'll take the Howl of Despair for a utility. And of course, Claws of Life, I don't really need to change. All right, so we just went over that. So we have all of these effects going on. All right. Kind of cool. We don't have to change anything else out. I really like some of these new changes. Okay, so I'm going to build up ultimate just by doing light attacks, and of course I have Relic Queen on. Just threw some shit together. Cal, morning. Hope you're well, brother. I'm doing very well. Hope you are too, Cal. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. So we're just going to build up ultimate, right? I'm sure it will increase the healing or duration because you are talking about, yeah, you would think. Right. But from the initial morph, it doesn't. That's why I was kind of like, you know, I mean, seriously. But when we take a look at the fourth, we're already scaled up on PTS. So on PTS Black, we're already scaled. So it would actually have shown it in tooltip. But, you know, that, I mean, literally, I wish they would actually do like percentage based. Like the first one prior to morph would heal you 30%, and then the morph would take it up to 50. You know, sometimes I don't feel like they catch those things right away. So I'm just building up ultimate. We'll get into all this. Now, to be honest with you, I will not build a PvE werewolf build as far as dungeon crawling. It'll never happen. And I'll be going into why. Because, well, as soon as I get enough ultimate. Now, a lot of people like to do it. People are like, it's fun. Yeah. I like to have fun. But I just like to be practical, too. Okay, so I have Werewolf Transformation. Okay, so let's get into this. Traditional setups have back bar application, or what we call a layering effect to the duration, right? So, and when I'm layering an effect, I can use stuff like exactly like my rearming trap. It's very important. Stuff like rearming trap, caltrops, endless hail, and poison injector. That's already layering before I can even get into all of this, right? It's layering effects. Right? So we're layering it. You see it all being layered, right? Very important stuff here when we're taking a look at layering damage effects. Did that hit? God dang it, man. All right, so you see all this layering effect go down, right? Kind of cool, man. Very important. Now, here's the thing. You can throw a rearming trap prior to transformation. You could throw the caltrops prior to transformation. But once you're dealing damage, your transformation is set, right? And then, given the fact that it costs 300 ultimate, it's kind of expensive. But once I get into the werewolf transformation and I jump in, if you notice, once I'm on top, Pounce is out the window. Once I pounce, I hit an AoE effect, right? All of a sudden, I have a utility. I have a single target. These are my two attacks. One that's going to offer a little dot thing, and then one. I have no other than my light and heavy attacks. I have one attack that is constant throughout. There's no rotation. None. I can't backbar swap. There's no backbar swap. There's no ultimate gain. And then, you know, if I quit dealing damage, I'm now out of werewolf form. So as you can see, the problem in werewolf in PvE application is how many effects you can layer. So your DPS drop is significant, right? We have no back bar, we have no ulti towards Warhorn or anything. We only have literally 1 to 2 effects being applied. So a lot of people are like, oh, we should do a PvE dungeon build with werewolf. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. because we have no back bar, we have no ulti. We are in ultimate. And I'm just being practical. Sure, it'd be fun. It'd be awesome. Now, PvP, a whole different ball game, right? Because we only need 1 or 2 abilities, and we need to sustain, right? That's all. That's it. To use 2, 3, maybe 3 attacks total. Werewolf with new light attack sets, Relic Queen, Moloch, you will rape a boss. That's not the problem, David. Sure, Relic Queen will apply, and that will apply, but it's still not enough. I could deal way more damage even with Relic Queen on a full window rotation, right? And I can. That's not the issue. It is literally the lack of abilities. No layering. None. One of the major things I always tell people we're always going to do is we have to layer effects to increase what? Our DPS. So no rearming trap. None when we're in werewolf form. There goes our critical damage. Out the window. All other AoE effects is out the window. Once I lay down, I can literally still hit. I don't need, like, I can still hit light attacks, get this going down. Right? And then reapply. That's still going to deal more than Werewolf ever will. So I could still hit light attacks in between the rotation as I'm layering. In Werewolf form, I'm never going to be able to do that. Right? I'm never going to be able to layer this much damage. You know, that's the issue. That's just the issue. It's the facts. So everybody's like, I want Werewolf to be a PvE. That's fine. You can probably do it. Is it going to be as effective? No, it never will be. It never, ever will be for 2 main reasons. We're limited with our attack abilities. Sure, we're going to apply bleed, right? Which I can do that with axes, right? Bleeds stack. So bleeds will be applied. Bleeds will stack, especially with new sets, right? That's a fact. Then you're right in that aspect, David. Completely. You're 100% right. But there's not enough layering going down. So it will always struggle in compared to other configurations. Not depending on the gear. It's basically depending on how many abilities we have at our disposal. And that's one bad thing about Werewolf. Now, PvP, Werewolf is strong as shit. Strong as shit. But we can't get past the fact that we have what? 2 attacks and a bleed. And I'm using a set. I'm using Relic Queen. So even if, and I could still use any monster set or anything in Werewolf, that's true. But I don't have a lot of the necessities. This is why I'm saying one of the main things they need to take a look at if they want Werewolf to be practical in Dungeon Crawl is backbar application. Now, I'm not saying allow werewolves to use weapon abilities, but to allow werewolves to use class-based abilities and fighter guild abilities or other things. So imagine being able to put rearming trap as a werewolf. That would come in handy. Imagine being able to use caltrops on werewolf. That would come in handy just by applying a back bar and allowing it to be slotted. But of course you would have to have werewolf on both bars. I hardly see DD werewolf anyway. It always seems to be tank going WW. That hurts the group because they can't taunt. Another good point. Once you tank, now tanks usually slot it for the increased stamina, but if they accidentally hit it, then it's kind of like, oh shit. So yeah, I do that sometimes, but yeah, there's no taunt. I think it would be fine in Dungeons of Exhaust. This is another reason I'm saying back bar. That's another good point there, Kel, because this is another thing. If they gave it a back bar and say we couldn't use, right? We could not use weapon ability, so we couldn't use sword and board. We could still pick up the Undaunted Inner Fire. Right? So a werewolf could have a ranged taunt. You could have a werewolf tank just by using Inner Fire and then using the werewolf ability to apply Major Fracture. That's very doable. That's very sustainable if they would apply a back bar effect. Unfortunately, given the fact that you only have 1 bar, you're like, oh shit, I have these skills at my disposal. I have no other skills. And that's the problem. They will nerf the new set, makes WW a cheese build. All they're doing is light attack as a pack leader and pulling 60-65k DPS on a dummy, right? It will get kind of nerfed. I mean, it's not a question of the werewolf's ability to deal damage. It's the werewolf's ability to have proper rotation. There's no there's no rotation that's on single target or anything that's going to sustain. I mean, it's just, I feel like the two things that Werewolf needs for practical PvE, and I'll be honest with you, I'll never put a build. Majority of content creators aren't. You're never going to see Outcast put a build together and say, this is my Werewolf dungeon build. Trial build. This is my Werewolf trial build. Are you going to see it? I highly doubt it. You know, you're not going to see a lot of known PvE content creators putting Werewolf builds together and saying, hey, we're going to roll this in vet content. It's just not going to happen. And I'm more practical than most of them. Everybody here knows what I've done. And if I say there's a problem with a proper rotation, then well, shit, why am I saying that? Because we have no back bar. We have no way to layer the effects efficiently. So we're banking on what? Reliqueen? That's it? Okay. Okay. So that's my point. So the thing about it is, Werewolf Berserker is awesome. There's a lot of things going on. Right? There's a lot of shit going on with Werewolf that's really cool. I love all the new changes. But for Zos to implement saying dungeon crawling, it's like I could throw utilities. I can do a lot of things with Werewolf. This is all true. But another thing, when a Warhorn gets blown, and sure, I'm getting increased attacks, I have no other ultimate to be dropping. My recommendation is give Werewolf Transformation an ultimate gain, right, during transformation. So when they're transforming, werewolves can still build up ultimate and have a secondary effect. Basically like, a giant swipe or something, or, a bite or something, or, some other ultimate attack. Give them an ultimate attack for gain. Because as it is, if I'm in werewolf, I can't even gain ultimate. I can't. So why not make the werewolf transformation have a secondary effect? Why not? And why not give werewolf an ability back bar to slot non-weapon based abilities, so it can have a proper back bar and a proper rotation for dungeon crawling? I don't think it's far-fetched. And if anything, it would give the werewolf even ability to tank, to have werewolf tanks, so they can use fighter guild taunts, and they can have a lot more application. So that's the one thing. A lot of people go vampire because vampirism passives. They don't give a shit about the werewolf vampire abilities in dungeon crawling. It's pointless. It's what those passives come in handy. That's why people take vampirism for dungeon crawling, because they're not worried about the abilities. They still have their back bars and they're picking up the passives. Well, the problem of it in werewolf is most of the passives are correlating to when you're transformed as a werewolf. And being as a werewolf, we're limited to what skills we can utilize. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. So once I'm in werewolf here, I could still light attack. I can do this all day. Just hit one button and literally, whatever. Like you were saying. But that's it. That's it. No rearming trap. And then I can do heavy attacks, hit splash damage, recover really fast. It's kind of nice. But we have, what? 2 abilities at our disposal. That's it. That's all we got. That's all we have at our disposal. That's it. No back bar, no ultimate gain. If you look at the bottom of my screen at my ultimate, I'm not gaining any ultimate. None. 0. No additional. Now after a while, does this seem fun to you? Is this going to seem fun just spamming like your light and heavy attacks and maybe 2 buttons? Because the other ones are utilities. Right? If I use Pounce, that's all I get. I get 1. Once I'm on top, I can't do shit with it. Right? There's nothing. There's absolutely nothing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. No back bar, no nothing. Just literally sitting here hitting 2 buttons. And just using Reliqueen. And that's why I popped on Reliqueen, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's Reliqueen. Oh, well, yeah, great. That's why I did it. It was like, it's still, we have no proper nothing. Nothing. People are like, are you going to put a werewolf build together? I mean, PvP? Probably I could. PvE, it'll never happen. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. Until they give me a back bar and a secondary effect and give me ultimate gain as a werewolf, it'll never happen. And this is why. Right here. So that's the con. Very strong. Open worlds. Great. PvP. Excellent. I agree, Mystic. Would be nice to gain extra ultimate and use a back bar. Right. You give me that. I'll build it. They give it to me. I'll build it. I'll build a werewolf if they give me a back bar and ultimate gain and a secondary effect. I'll build it. I'll make the most badass werewolf anybody will ever fucking see. I promise you. But until they give me a back bar and ultimate gain, what the fuck am I doing with this? Hitting 2 buttons and using a proc set? What is this? What the fuck is this? Yeah. That's my major brutality. That's it. That's all it's going to give me. But after once I do it, I have 17 seconds. Well, yeah, it is. You're right about that. But this is my spam. I have, like I said, I have no rearming trap. Without rearming trap, my DPS, like I said, I could take this and I could go within any other situation. Use Relic Queen with any other configuration. This will never keep up. It won't. It fucking won't. They can say all they want. They can whatever. You can put it on any other configuration. Do the same fucking thing. Hit light attacks and literally have your spammable and all your layered attacks, and you'll still out DPS a fucking werewolf. You always fucking will. You will always out DPS a werewolf. No matter what, because you're using sets anyways. The only difference of it is you're applying 2 to 3 layered effects. You will always out DPS a werewolf. Right? The werewolves are scary not because of necessarily just the damage they deal. They deal a shitload of damage, right? Nah, this is true. But the problem of werewolf is simply when you're facing them off PvP is sustain. They heal for a shitload as they're dealing damage. And they got a lot of resistance. So when you're in werewolf form and you take a look at this without prior to my buffs, I already have 2100 resistance. I don't even have CP points put in. At CP, I'm like a tank. I got like 25 fucking resistance without having heavy armor anything. Werewolves are strong in PvP because of the resistance they have on top of the healing sustain. It's not just the damage. It's like, okay, yeah, man, they deal pretty good damage. Well, so does everybody else. You know, I mean, that's not the issue. The issue of it is they're fucking tanky as fuck and they're healing as they're fucking beating you down. Add that with the fear. Once you get feared, you're fucking dead. You're fucking toast as a werewolf when you're facing a werewolf. That's what it is. And then now you add pack leader to some of these new changes in PvP. It's going to be awesome. You're going to see packs rolling in again, right? It's in PvP, we're going to see a lot of shit. But you see a fucking pack of fucking werewolves in a fucking dungeon, okay, yeah, have fun, man. Sure, you're going to have fun in normal dungeons, some vets. Fucking roll that shit in fucking, you know, some hard mode fucking dungeons. See how well you guys fucking do. When you guys can't fucking dodge roll, you guys can't fucking, you know, increase the effects. Good luck, man. Good luck with that. Well, welcome back, Rosalind. Yeah, it's just not practical. I like Werewolf. I like the new changes they've done. I really appreciate a lot of the things that they did with Werewolf. The problem of it is, Zos is like, let's do something for dungeons. Oh, what? Are you talking delves? Okay, cool. What? You're going to tell me? I'll be honest. I'm going to be a snob about it. If I see somebody fucking transform a fucking werewolf in a fucking dungeon, it's basically like saying, hey, I'm a tank without a fucking taunt. Guess what? Good fucking buy. Good fucking buy. Click. You found your heavy armor? Cool. Awesome, Rosalind. Good luck. I will be booting people's fucking heads out the fucking window. It's like, remember when they were trying to make heavy armor DPS a thing? How well did that work? Not fucking at all. Not fucking at all. Didn't. Why? Because you're passives. You gave them one passive and you thought heavy armor was going to be a DPS? Yeah, fucking right. Fucking right. They can be doable. You can make Werewolf into a dungeon build. But you need to add a back bar and a secondary effect to the ulti and have an ulti gain. Because if you don't, It's never going to. Okay, Zoss. Take note. Eben. For PvP, I wouldn't use Eben in PvP. A lot better sets. Anyways. So, Relic Queen in certain applications, like the people are trying to use Relic Queen in PvP. I'm like, as soon as I get hit with this, I laugh and I go down their fucking throat and smash the shit out of them. Don't fucking try to use Relic Queen on me in PvP. I'll beat the fuck out of you. Don't even try it, boy. That shit, you know, Battle Spirit will fuck that set up every day of the week. You got to think of Battle Spirit. And then Slayer, what's Slayer going to do? Max health increase. There's other sets that will give you max health, further max health increase than Eben. Depending on class, you'd even be better off with, if you're not a Warden, you would even be better off with fucking, what's that set? That adds the, okay. It's an Overland set, heavy. It'll give you more, ends up giving you more than Eben, if you're not a Warden. Warrior's Poet. Warrior Poet will give you more than fucking Eben. Eben and Llama song. Llamas is alright. But if you're not Warden, Warrior Poet will give you more than Eben will. If you're not a Warden already. And it'll give you buffed up your resistance. Eben's good for like, you know, group and, you know, maybe Warden application, but Warrior Poet will give you a little bit more due to that boost. A little bit. So, just food for thought. You can use Eben. It's good. It'll give you the health. But if you're not Warden, I would suggest, if this PvP, we're talking PvP, you know, because literally, I mean, Warrior Poet is junk most of the time, except PvP. PvP Warrior's Poet for non-Warden tanks or health build, this set kicks fucking ass. Gets 2 max health, then you gain minor toughness. So true, Slodes for PvP. Yeah, Slodes is the shit. Yeah, I mean, serious. I'm glad. Actually, when I read the slow changes, I'm like, okay, well, you're taking off the initial hit. Whatever. Sword and shield or 2-hand. I do both. I would go 2H and sword and board on a build like that. If you're going to use those type of sets. That's what I would do. That's me personally. Yeah, Slodes is awesome, Spartacus. I agree. Faja heals. You're the man. He is a badass healer, I'm telling you. David's healer is the shit. I'm like, holy crap. It's really good. It was fucking really good. But, you know, seriously, there's a lot of potential werewolves have. If they would add a back bar, we could see werewolf tanks. Werewolves have a lot of resistance, a shitload of resistance. Add sets to that. You could see werewolf tanks. If they had a taunt, but you need a back bar to apply fighter, you know, a undaunted taunt. I'm not saying give werewolf sword and board or 2H abilities or anything slotted and have a werewolf rock around with the 2H. That's, even though it would be really fucking cool to see a werewolf with this fucking 2H fucking sword coming at you. You'd be like, werewolves are scary as is. Could you imagine a werewolf with a fucking 2H in its hand? You'd be like, I'm fucking dead. Yes, you are. Yes, you fucking are. That would be so badass. The problem of it is werewolves are fun, but they're not always practical in every scenario. That's the issue. You want to make werewolves dungeon viable? Give them a back bar. Let them slot other abilities. And give them a fucking ulti gain while they're in werewolf. There you go. And if people cry, nerf them down just a tidbit to adjust the value a little bit. You know, that's my recommendation, Zoss. Other than that, it's cool. Like some of the things, it's cool. It's going to really help for PvP. PvP werewolves are already strong. They're going to continue to be strong for PvP. You know, especially with the fear mechanic. I mean, shit. I mean, werewolves are pretty tough. I love the new themes of the dungeons. I love all the new stuff that's being piped out. The problem of it is when we're taking a look at practical application for, you know, end game worthy type configuration, werewolves lacking all the necessities. It's lacking it. It's completely lacking those necessities. Don't tell no one, but slowed set, shield breaker, and oblivion weapon glyphs for the win. Yeah, I know, David. We had that discussion. Remember, I'm using on my mage blade. I had a video I was talking about that. I already said that. For stamina, you use this setup. For magicka, you use infused Torok's pack with the oblivion damage. Yeah. I knew that was slowed all the way. Somebody asked about Night Slayer, and I was like, nah, because it's only a percentage of health. Shield breaker is probably the way to go if you're going to be stam. Add that with slows and whatever. Then on top of it, if you're going magicka, though, Torok's pack, infused Torok's pack every day of the week. Infused Torok's pack with slows. Say goodbye, fucking Sork shield stacks. That's what pissed me off on the forum yesterday. Sork's complaining slow changes weren't enough, saying damage shouldn't stack. I answered, no problem with shield stacking, but damage can't get the fuck right. Fucking no problem with shield stacking. Shield stacking's fine, even though there's fucking no spillover when the stack applies. Yeah, it's fucking fine. It's working as intended. But guess what? Fuck the oblivion damage that's fucking penetrating my shield stack. Yeah, tell them. Yeah, I agree with you, Kel. Tell them to get the fuck out of here. Fucking crybabies. That's why Slodes was put in here. Slodes was put in for two fucking reasons. Because Zos can't fix shield stacking, and they can't fix fucking perma blockers. That's why Slodes was thrown in here. That's exactly why. I need you to do a guide on my dark magicka build sometime. I'll see what I can do. I'm really busy, Rosalind, but I'll see what I can get into. A lot of people request a lot of stuff. So I'll see what I can get, man. I can't promise anything, though. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like Werewolf is looking great. The changes are awesome. PvP, really strong. Open world, strong. Delve, strong. Dungeoning. Oh, no. No, man. No. No, I mean, seriously, just saying, man. I'm one for open build options, man. I'm one to do it. If I could pull it off reliantly and say, yes, do this and carry this in a dungeon, I would come out with some of the most craziest builds. But given the fact that I only have 2 abilities at my disposal and I have no rotation, and you got, no. There's no rotation to it. None. 0. There's nothing I can do about that. Zos needs to take a look at it. There's no way possible. It's just not. It's just the way it is, man. I know people hate that hearing that. They're like, I want to roll werewolf in a dungeon. Hey, have at it. Just don't group up with me. You know, that's all I'm saying. Do what you want to do in this game. I believe that wholeheartedly. I believe that. I'm a player who believes if it works for you and you're having fun, go for it. 100%. This game is a blast in that aspect. You can do whatever you want to do in this game. I'm a wholehearted believer of that. But I'm not grouping up with people who wants to run werewolves in dungeons. It's just not going to happen. I'm about efficiency. And I'm sorry, 2 abilities is not going to be effective for me and my party members. And that's, at the end of the day, it might sound like an elite dickhead statement, but it's not me who's making the false assumption to say, hey, you know, or you're going to be able to do this effectively. You know, give me a back bar. I'll make werewolf tanks. I'll make werewolf healers if you give me a back bar, Zos. That'll be awesome. I'll make a werewolf healer if you give me a back bar. If you give me a back bar on werewolf, I'll make a werewolf fucking healer. Don't think I can? I will. But until you give me a back bar, nah. I can do a lot of things, man, but in this game, but I can't make fucking miracles fucking happen. Right? I only work with what I'm given. And that's fact. So there it is, pretty much said and done. I'm going to let everybody go. I hope everybody likes the changes to the upcoming Wolfhunter DLC, it's really fun. Werewolf will be a blast. But there are pros and cons, and for anybody, you know, wanting to experiment, I encourage you to do such. If you want to take Werewolf in any content in this game, feel free to try it, man. Don't listen to me. I'm always telling people, man, do you. Try to pick up what you can, learn from whatever you can, and do what you want to do. Because at the end of the day, it's not my game. It's your game, right? And that's what's important, no matter what I say or anybody else. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Mr. Craven, the CSO Daily. And as always, have a nice day.